speaks. I know how he guides me. I know what's happening. Those I feel like stupid, crazy. Like I feel safe. So fun. And that's the biggest thing.
Namaste, yogis. This is Adrienne, and I'm here with Mia. We are going to today's episode is all about Martin. Martin is one of our dear friends and teachers at our local yoga studio. We've known Martin. I've known Martin for 2.5 years now, I think, something like that, almost 3. Martin is amazing. He's kind of like this. I really didn't know that he was an introvert. And he kind of explains that in his story a little bit. But his talents and his creativity and the things that he's gotten to do in his life and how many times he's recreated himself is just so inspiring. So I really hope you guys enjoy today's episode with Martin, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hey friends, I'm here with Martin and Adrienne, and we're going to dive in. Martin, start by just telling us about yourself.
Well, my name is Martin, and I'm a father of 4 amazing kids. I'm a yoga instructor, and I also read tarot and anything spiritual in life, anything that I can find out a little bit more to expand my consciousness, my practice, anything. I'm just curious about life.
Awesome. And tell us about your yoga origin story. How did you find yoga?
How did I find yoga? Well, I've always been in athletics. I've always been active physically. And I was gifted some CDs in my 30s, and it was just some basic poses. So I really liked the forms that were made, and then as I grew older, I'd pull them out once in a while, and my kids would make poses with me, but there wasn't really a practice. Later on in life, actually in 2018, a friend of mine asked me if I'd go to a yoga studio her friend owned. And if I wanted to go to a yoga class with her. And I'm like, yes, I am down because I really want to experience that. And it was a restorative class. So I had an amazing experience. I felt amazing afterwards. I had a great sleep. And so I continued every week in restorative. But this was a power yoga studio. And so I was curious about the other classes. So after a month, I tried a power yoga class, and then I definitely got hooked on that because of the way we moved, the challenging aspects of the series, the class, the poses. Everyone was very welcoming and helpful. There was no judgment, so I just felt at home. So I started going twice a week for about another month, and then I just got addicted, and so I got an unlimited membership. And so from there on, it was everyday yoga, and it was such an amazing transformation, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, and the spiritual aspect that it brought in. So, but that was my origin story, and it blossomed from there to become a yoga instructor right after that.
That's awesome. You mentioned, you were hooked, you got addicted. What do you think that hook was for you? What was different about being in studio versus those DVDs you were gifted?
It was the instructors were very in tune in the practice, and they were teaching to us in what we were going through. And then it was, someone said, and I think everyone has heard it, what goes on in the mat is what's going off on the mat, off the mat. So when I was in the practice, it was a very guided flow. The transformation physically, I felt great, but the emotional release that came out was amazing. The mental processing, not only thinking of the poses, but what happened through the day, I was able to actualize it and let it go. So nothing was being held on to. So after a practice, it felt like the day was processed and let go of instead of holding on to. So I miss my yoga practice every day because it helps me internalize what has gone through the day, let go of things. And then things have come up that have been in the far past that would flow up. And so the process of moving through those emotions were very cathartic, very transformative. And I wanted to have that more in my life. And then also ultimately leading to be a teacher myself, to instruct people and guide them through that same transformation.
Yeah, you mentioned that transformation of that release, moving through emotions. What changed? What was life like before? Had you found other ways to have that kind of release? And if not, then what did it look like being able to have that release?
Well, like I said, I was always physical. So I was lifting weights, and it was kind of like, what you can move in your body. It was ego driven in a sense. And then, always trying to better myself. And so there was goals that were reached. And then when I came in through yoga, it was not a goal that was ever reached. It's like this continuous process. So before, it was still kind of like I am tuning out to exercise. I'm tuning out to there's things that I can control. And I, of course, we like that aspect of just something that we can control within our body when things out of life are out of control. But then when yoga came in, like I said, there is things that process through that were able to flow, and then realize to be comfortable with the things that cannot be changed. How do you process that? How do you develop the tools to move through those daily life experiences? And it's okay, So you find those tools of meditation, of relaxation, of the breath. And then so when challenges happened through daily life, whether it was through the kids or work, the responses weren't so reactive. So before, it was like things are out of control. I'm frustrated, angry. I can't control this. Temper rising, cholesterol rises, all that happens in the physical body. But when the yoga practice came in, and then realizing, feeling good in the body, saying, this is what it is. And then going with the flow with it. Okay, it's not going to be helpful to get angry or frustrated. What is the solutions through this? Baby steps going through it. So just like the yoga practice, moving through that energy, it's going to be what it's going to be. So your attitude going through it is your determination. It's your choice. So you can be frustrated or go through the flow with it and find those solutions. So yoga helped me find those solutions through it and being okay to fail. So
you found these solutions. Were other people noticing this change, noticing the way that you had these tools accessible to you?
Yes. Well, people around me, people have mentioned, how there's some change or some calmness and I'm like, if you had seen me years ago, it's not the same. It was more, like I said, more of a reactive one or quiet. I was very quiet or introverted and kept to myself. So yoga really brought out that personal connection with other people and expressions, and to be myself, because I was able to accept myself. And you mentioned that other people saw it. Well, the person that I met, who was the owner, was my friend's friend. She became a really good friend, and she came and sat next to me one time and said that, have you ever thought about being a yoga instructor? And I think that is what we see in other people too, is like when they're in their practice and they have these meaningful moments, they can transfer that into a meaningful teaching of a class. Absolutely. And I've always thought about it, never took the opportunity to do it, but then I'm like, I'm going for it. I'm going to do this because I could see myself wanting to inspire people the way I was inspired.
And so you said you got to be yourself. Like, who is that person now versus then?
Now I'm okay with making mistakes. Before, I felt like the biggest judge was me making a mistake, that I was wrong, not good enough, things like that. So that is the biggest change. And I think people can actually see that now. And like, this is not you if you're kind of frustrated. So it's like it's having that calmness through those challenges. And I feel that is the biggest change in my life, that I'm okay with making mistakes. Now I would look for making mistakes because I really learn from them and have amazing growth in that. So, and I want to share that with my kids. It's okay to mess up and don't get so frustrated or angry. That's life. And then how you experience that, how you react to that is important. So if you made a mistake, it's not a mistake. You just learned how it didn't work. Find something that does.
Yeah, it's like you've never met a strong person with an easy past.
Exactly.
Can you give me an example of one of your mistakes recently that you've learned from your teaching or from yoga?
Wow. Mistakes in yoga, So I usually feel like I was always hard on myself if I didn't say the right thing or I didn't hold space, and I messed up on my left side. I messed up on I did miss a side the other day.
Oh,
so I thought,
worst, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, these people are like, this is going to be the worst class ever. But realizing that I was holding space for people and their experience was their responsibility. And so I'm relieving myself from it. And it was a big learning experience from that. And I was really hard on myself because I really take it very seriously that I'm leading people in their practice.
Oh, yeah.
And I want them to have a very impactful experience. And if I'm not there totally 100% for them, they're going to have an experience that's not good. Then I realized if they're not having a good experience on the mat, it's their choice. It's what they're going through, and it's no reflection on me. So I removed that judgment that I feel people have, and I realize they're not even judging me at all. So, and even if they did, it's something that they're going through anyway, and it has no reflection on me. So it was a big eye-opening experience that everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their going through their own experiences, and just to continue once again to hold space for them.
I had a student tell me one time too that she's like, I like it when teachers mess up because then it makes them be more human.
Exactly.
It's not like, because we're not any different than a student on their mat. We just have these skills that we've learned that we love to share with others.
Finding this acceptance for yourself, for your students, in your reactivity, in holding that judgment, has that inspired a change in any other parts of your life?
It's opened me up to new experiences and not being afraid to try, and actually get up and do things. If they ask for a volunteer, I'm able to get up and do things. So experiencing that creative art, getting in front of a camera, starting an Instagram, being seen is the biggest part. And I think people are afraid to be seen because of the judgment aspect of it. And there's always going to be judgment. And if, there was a comedian a long time ago who said, if you don't have haters, you're not doing anything. So it's good to be out there and be seen. So I like to, and we're always big proponents for others to be seen. It's like, you can do this, you can do it, but we're always afraid to do it ourselves.
Sure.
And so I was listening to myself, okay, we need to just get out there. And there's some other things that I like to do besides yoga. And I believe I talked about the tarot, reading tarot and being seen that way versus like being judged of, you're doing something that's off or that no one does, or, and has some judgment on that. But being authentic to myself, I think that has just really grown. So my life has been rewritten so many times. Who knows what the next thing would be? I might be a mountain climber, or, I'll be a baker, or whatever it is. Just not afraid to try something new and make the change, and not being stuck in that situation or being Martin is this, have other people's definitions on me, but always break those definitions and try something new.
I was going to say, tell us more about the tarot, the Instagram. You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
I love tarot. I love reading because it helps people tap into their own intuition and make choices, and that they are the creator of their life. And I always use that analogy in the studio. You're the creator of your practice. So they always have free will. So it taps into that. And there's magic in the tarot cards because it'll talk about their current energy. And if they like it, they continue. If they don't, they can always change it. And we talk about themes in our yoga classes. And so I use the tarot before I even teach a class. And I find out through the cards, I'll pick a card or two and find out what the theme is. So I feel that energetically flows through the class, and it'll speak to a message through it. And so it took a while for me to get in front of the camera or even tell people that I read tarot. And so it's been baby steps, and now I'm in front of the tarot, in front of the camera, and I'm doing energy readings for the week. And then hopefully it will grow into something more. Well, I know it's going to grow into more because I'm taking those steps one step at a time. That's what I always tell people, one step at a time, one breath at a time. You're not going to get there right off the bat, but getting your feet adjusted or getting used to the temperature, I would say, and then expand and grow on each video, each post. So I know it's going to grow. I know I'm going to do a little bit more in it, but it's just getting more comfortable with it. But I really love my new Instagram account. I'm getting some good followers and good comments. So I'm glad.
Give us your handle.
It is Mystic Star Journey. So it's mystic _star _journey. So
Great.
That's awesome. What can other people learn from your story?
That not afraid to change. Life happens. I've been married a couple times, divorced a couple times, have children, getting stuck in a rut. In my 50s, I became a yoga instructor. So you can always change. You can always change your outlook on life, and don't be afraid to be that example for yourself. And then find a community that supports that, and find your group, find your family, your soul family to move forward. And it's okay to change.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you. So you know how like there's like the perfect shot, right? Like if you've played sports before, you played football, right? Like the perfect pass, the perfect touchdown, the perfect golf shot. Do you have a moment of time in yoga that was kind of like a aha moment, or when you first hit a pose that you've been working on for a long time? Do you remember any of those moments that you could share?
There are many moments because we have many poses in yoga, but like I said, being very physical in my life, I was very inspired by other yogis that did inversions in these crow pose or side crow. And I could do a couple of them. I always could do a headstand since I was little, but others were doing handstands or these crow poses. And side crow, always, I couldn't do it. It was a year before I did it. And I was frustrated because it's like, this is, being body aware of what your body can do is the big thing. But when you look at someone that can do something you can't, you're like, you judge yourself. It's like, I can't do that. But then I had an instructor talk about it, and then I just told me to move my hand a little bit. I did, and I was able to do side crow that fit my body. And I'm like, oh my God. So that was a big transformation that I try to talk to people. Everyone has a different body in those poses. And after I did it, it's like, I could have been doing this all the time.
Right.
So,
right.
And then you're able to build on that. But I don't think I could have gotten that right from the beginning because it did take practice. You needed to open up your body, have a little bit more flexibility. But when I did that, it was like, wow, my body is transforming, going through this transformation physically. And emotionally, it felt amazing. And then I was trying different variations. And, I even post on my Instagram for yoga my fails, of what I do, and I fall out.
I love that.
So it's not always perfect Instagram. So I think I posted a picture of me doing a headstand, holding 2 wheels on the side. Looked amazing, but that was the second that I held it. So the next thing I posted was me going up and falling on my back. So It's just an Instagram picture of a moment that people can judge themselves. Oh, I won't be able to do that. Well,
no.
I didn't either.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't either. I wasn't.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So where can people connect with you, connect with your work and your readings? Give us all the info.
Connecting with readings, once again, it's Mystic Star Journey. You can reach out to me through a DM. I have different types of readings for you. I can do a very lengthy reading that covers career and relationships, current energy, answer questions. That's about an hour long. Or if you just want to concentrate on relationships or your career, or if you just want to ask questions, just DM me. I can tell you what my availability is here in San Antonio. I can meet you, or we can do it online or over Zoom. We can do a reading that way. At the studio, I teach at a couple studios here. My Instagram is at Martin Yogi Martin Yogi. That's me.
That's good.
So that's Martin Yogi. So you can see me connect there. But yes, just DM me on one of those Instagram. You can find me once again on my tarot, and I would be glad to help you and guide you through any questions that you might have.
We totally have to have Martin to do our tarots soon.
Yes.
We'll have to have you back.
Yes.
We'll have like a bonus episode with Martin.
For sure.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in there. There were some moments with Martin where I was like, oh, I'm struggling for words, and you just saved me.
It was so much fun. Are you kidding? I love listening to Martin talk. Like, Chris has a great voice. Like, everybody we're interviewing so far has had amazing voices, right? Like, we're so lucky we don't have anybody with like a shit voice. I guess just me. I feel like I got the shit voice. So you guys have to listen to me. But Martin, when he was here with us, like his energy, just his calmness, how grounded he is, how talented. Like, he's so creative. It blows my mind.
Yeah, because I think if Martin, admittedly started a little bit nervous, like his first question or two, he was a little tense. But I think just like his story of yoga, he melted in. And because I told him, listen, you know it. It's just you.
Yeah.
And so soon as he started diving in a little bit more, I think he just opened up, his story opened up, and he just got comfortable. And I think it speaks so much to, like you said, he was an introvert before. So we saw just a peek of that in the beginning.
I know. That was so crazy.
It's crazy because the way that Adrienne and I know Martin, I would have never thought he was an introvert.
No.
He is so warm. All of his students love him. They want to give him hugs. They want to talk to him. He talks to everyone before class and after class. Like, it's this constant
He's like a big brother.
Yeah, transaction of energy and advice and guidance. And so to hear that he was an introvert and that changed thanks to yoga in some way, shape, or form was really cool.
Oh, I know. And it was interesting as I was talking to Laura, his bestie that did teacher training with him. And Laura was like, oh my God, Martin needed to come out of his shell. Like I just kept looking at him being like, you have something to say. You need to say it. I thought that was so cool. I mean, he's not afraid to change. Martin said it. He is not afraid to change. We should never be afraid to change. Change in life is the only thing that's ever constant.
Right.
And everybody gets their panties in a wad every day when something changes, you know, whether it's a studio schedule change, right? Or a season change, a weather change, anything like that.
You got to pick up your kid after school and you weren't anticipating it.
Yes. Oh my God. That happened to me yesterday. I totally forgot to pick up Mallory. She told me she was going to text me and she didn't. So it's her fault. But even like he said, I had to tune out a lot of the stuff and yoga taught me how to tune out. That was interesting to me because so far when we've had conversations, we talk about tuning into ourselves, right? And he's not saying tune that out. He was saying I have to tune everything else out, right? All the other bullshit that's influencing how I feel about myself.
Well, it makes sense. You have to tune out those external factors, those outside voices, those outside opinions in order to listen to yourself. And, you know, we had this interview and just the other day, I offered a sutra in my class and I was like, this is perfect. And so for those of you who don't know, there's this whole book of yoga sutras. They're like these teachings, these parables, these verses that explain almost like the history of yoga, these ideas around yoga and how to practice that entire 8-limb path that we've discussed before.
It's like how to show up in life. It's like, here's your guidebook to not be an asshole.
Here's your guidebook to yoga too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so there's Sutra 1-3. So book 1, Sutra 3. Then the seer, the self, abides in its own nature. And that can seem a little abstract. And so I found this translation from Living the Sutras. It's a great book. And it says, when the mind is steady and calm, we know our true nature. And I think that's what we heard from Martin. He had been going through these transitions, right? So he's not afraid of change. He's not afraid of rewriting his own story. But he had been going through all these transitions of life, experiencing different jobs, different relationships with family, with partners, with children. And then when he found his yoga studio, when he found his yoga practice, when he found his yoga teacher and eventual teacher training, he has now begun to step into his true nature, which I think is who we know him as, right?
Yes.
So that's why that idea of him being this shy person was like baffling to us.
Right.
And that still might be a component of him, right? You can still be shy, a little bit of an introvert. But I think we are seeing this beautiful, beautiful version of Martin,
His soul,
true self,
like
right?
who he is at his heart.
Who he is at his core and his
Yeah.
heart, and that is someone who is a giver, someone who is, like you said, that big brother who gives advice, a caretaker who provides guidance. So yoga for Martin has allowed him to step into his true nature and now step into being a small business owner, right?
Yeah.
Pursuing his tarot on a larger level
Yeah.
because he's always been a fabulous intuitive reader. He's done it for
Yes.
years. He's taught
Yes.
me how to read tarot. And now he is saying, and I want to do this on a larger scale for more people, more intentionally. And that feels aligned with who he is versus his current job, right?
Totally. And you know what's cool too is like with Martin, his ability to not be, he doesn't have an ego. Like he's not an egotistical person whatsoever. In fact, like he's almost so kind that I want him sometimes to like stand up and yell at me. You know, not really, because I think Martin would be scary if he was mad, but he's just the sweetest person. And like when I see him interacting with people and the fact that he's leaning into this kind of, I want to make my impact on people, my gift
By giving.
I want to drop a big boulder into the middle of a still pond and create a ripple, right? Like that's what he's doing. And the fact of quieting your mind, it's not, your brain is kind of like your worst case scenario handbook, right? So like your brain all day long is telling you all the bullshit things that could go wrong, right?
Looking for red flags.
Looking for problems.
Looking for danger.
Yep. And the only system in your body, your enteric system, which is your gut, right? That's the only system that can or independently operate from the brain and make a decision on like a threat or something beforehand by giving you that sensation, that gut feeling. So Martin is able to tune out the brain's worst case scenario advice and tune into his true nature by finding, first he said he started yoga, with a 30 pose CD, right? Which is so funny. I swear the videos, we have to go back and try to find some on YouTube and watch them because I bet you they're hilarious to watch now. And that to me is just how yoga's evolved and changed and how much it's starting to become a regular practice of life, right? Yoga is how to live a healthy, happy life. It's not a religion. It's not dogmatic. It is all about how to show up for yourself and for others and live a happy life. And I shouldn't even say happy. I should say joyful. Yeah. Live a joyful life. I found this yoga wisdom and practices aim to quiet the mind, allowing for clear perception regardless of one's personal belief system. When you sit quietly, you can notice your heartbeat. You can notice your breathing patterns. You can notice parts of your lungs that expand and contract in easy ways and some that might be a little bit sticky or tight. You can even notice the humming of your body. If you sit still and rub your hands together really, really fast for like 20 seconds and then stop and hold your hands about a couple inches away from each other, you can still feel the energy of the friction of your hands together. So like we have scientists have proven we have a 4-foot energy bubble around our whole body. And that energy, it permeates into every space and place we go to. So when you walk into a room, your energy is already impacting someone else. So with Martin, he is so intuitive that he's able to kind of put down the guards and his personal belief system, there's personal judgments, and really see through the bullshit of, well, what is this person? Who is this person? How are they showing up? What's their energy like? And like, it's not that Martin thinks that he's going to heal people. Martin is just sharing and connecting, right? At our root, at human nature, what we want is connection. We want personal connection.
And I think other people can feel that from Martin.
Yes.
So I've witnessed it, right? So like, I think students seek out Martin, they seek out his class, they seek out his readings because he is sitting in his own power. He is sitting in his true nature, in his true self. And that's inspiring. Like that idea, like you said, not necessarily happiness, but joyful, right? Like, and I just think when you are living authentically as yourself, it just feels right.
It does.
You know what I mean? It just feels authentic. It just feels organic. It just feels natural in that you're not fighting against who you think you should be or who you think others think you should be or who you've been obligated to be, right? And so when you have that presence and essence of true self, it's inspiring. It's magnetic. People are drawn to you because they want that for themselves too, because it's natural, right? It's organic. It is our state. It's where we want to be as people. It's just really hard. Like you said, your mind really tells you otherwise. And even when you're sitting in that true self and that true sense, there are going to be challenges towards that, right? There's going to be what your parents or your friends or maybe even your community ask of you or expect of you or project onto you. And so then you have to sit and consider, is this my true self? And so I think what yoga does, and because you get all this energy out through yoga, right? You're moving the energy through your body. You're getting this.
You're metabolizing that excess energy that can eat you up.
Yes. You are getting this movement out. So then your mind can be still and be a seer, right? It can be perceptive of, is this reality? Or is this what I'm telling myself? Because we'll tell ourselves stories all day. Oh, yeah. And so yoga just provides that. I think everyone's like, that peace, that stillness, right? Right. And it's like, it's not just because, it's not just magic. You step into the studio and you have this peace and magic. But when you have a physical practice, right, it allows all of that to shed away so that, and it might even just be for a moment or a glimmer of like, oh, this is what I actually want, or this is what I actually need, or this is who I actually am.
Exactly. Well, even like my whole life, I've suffered with ADHD, anxiety, depression. I say suffered. I shouldn't say suffer because I do think that those are my gifts that I've been given, right? But they're challenging gifts. That's how I should put it. They're challenging gifts. ADHD, anxiety, and depression that I have. Yeah. And when I think about movement for me, I may not always be able to verbalize my emotions or how I'm feeling, but if I move my body, I can get rid of that energy. So like when people ask me like, why do you practice yoga? One of the reasons is silent therapy, because my body is able to move out energy that is not necessary to hold into anymore. And it allows me to transform from the inside out. You know, it allows me the space and the grace to be able to fail on my mat and feel like, oh, that's no big deal. That's actually good because I allowed myself to fail. I opened myself up to that journey, you know, and that path is, it's not easy and every day feels different. But like once you know, like what are the things that inspire you in life? But I do want to continue with talking about how he started with restorative, right? And he didn't do any other yoga until he started finding power yoga or power vinyasa yoga. And basically for all of our newbie yogas out there, restorative yoga is a practice that is supported. You use props like bolsters, blocks, straps, blankets. Yeah. And you prop yourself up in postures to allow your muscles to soften and your connective tissue around your joints and your ligaments, your tendons to begin to get a little bit of stress and pressure and stretch. Release, right? Yeah. So it's like, think about your muscles like a rubber band. It's stretchy, you can move, but then in restorative, it's soft and still, and your tendons and ligaments are more like a six-pack can ring, that plastic. If you pull it too far, it'll snap. And if you pull it too far, it'll stay that way. So restorative yoga helps to balance kind of the effort and the ease of your practice in your like physical body.
Those props are doing all the work for you.
Right.
Is how I like to say like you
exactly.
put them there and then you just lay on them and they rock.
Right. Well, and I mean, for Martin, like, I don't know, my little squirrel brain would have a really hard time with starting with restorative yoga only, but there is so much peace in that. And what people don't understand is that when you push yourself as hard as we do in our society for exercise and for fitness, you need a balance in order to recover and to get stronger. Your body will not get stronger if you don't provide restore, right?
And I think if you're someone who struggles with stillness, this practice is even more so for you, right? It's like, it is a place to practice being still and to practice being with yourself, being with your breath, being with your body and observing what that is like. And I know that for myself, I struggled with that. I avoided it for a very long time. And then it was something that I craved so much that I was like, all I'm doing is restorative and yin.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, it's time to start moving again.
Start to move. Yeah. It's hard to find that balance.
It is a balance. It's a balance.
It's totally a balance.
And so I think also what's interesting is a lot of people will suggest restorative or yin for beginners, but it's so tough on the mind.
Oh, it's so tough on the mind. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know how Martin did it for the first time. Like that's how he practiced yoga for a long time until he found power yoga and, the teachers there that helped inspire him. But, what Martin said best was, don't be afraid to change, and during his practice, he said after his practice, actually, that he's able to actualize and let it go. So I have two things I wanted to read to you to see what your thoughts are. Finding yourself isn't really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket. You aren't lost. You're right here. Buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew upon as a kid that all became limited beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself, an unlearning, an excavation, a remembering of who you were before the world got its hands on you. I thought that was really cool.
I
It's
like
not
that.
mine. I didn't write it. I don't know who did. I'll have to put it in the show notes. Well, stay tuned. We'll have some more episodes for you coming up in the next few weeks. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. Please subscribe and rate and review and send out our podcast to those who are interested in yoga or love yoga. We would love to hear from you. You can send us an email at yogachanged@gmail.com. You can also follow us on the TikTok and the Instagram at Yoga Changed. Thank you guys so much for listening. Next week's episode, we're going to have a little bonus content from Martin. Have a lovely week, and we will see you on the other side.
And then when you think a little bit more body awareness, right? Like, you find out, see you soon, muscle. Bye, have a great day, enjoy your mat.
Thank you.